Right, I'm going to do a little pre-weekend video just because something important happened in crypto this week that people may have seen, but it has implications for the entire fiat world. So, from a macro perspective, this is a much bigger deal, and I thought it was worth just kind of going through things. I've been trying to bridge the gap between the acceleration of the cryptocurrency, blockchain, Web3 world and its intersection with the macro side, along with AI. So I'm going to just kind of take you through this because this was a very important acquisition. And so I'm just going to go through this. This is just the general story of what happened this week, which is Stripe, which is a private startup company that hasn't gone public yet, and I'll take you through who they are. They purchased Bridge, which is I think a 2.5-year-old company, for 1.1 billion. So Sequoia was involved with Bridge. So they put this out, and I'm going to try as you go through this to make sure that you understand that when I do these, this is to help people learn more, not just in what I'm saying, but this one's going to be without charts. This is really just a lot of information that you can go source out on the internet. And the purpose of this is that I think for people who want to go down their own rabbit holes and learn, I'm just sharing with the way that I do my research on these things and figure out the implications. I'll eventually get into its implications for Bitcoin and in particular Solana. But you can go to Sequoia's site, you can see it, they go through it. I just want to highlight here one important thing as we go through it. The main thing behind this is stablecoins. And as I go through this, for those of you who don't really know what stablecoins are, I highlighted here that emerging markets are something that was specifically mentioned. When I had gone through and did a video about a month and a half ago on the Bitcoin story, the point of that whole thing was to give you an idea of where it fits in. When the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper came out, arguably the most important part of it was the blockchain technology. And we get fixated sometimes on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has proven to be an inefficient currency for financial transactions. So there still needed to be a bridge between the fiat world of spending money and the crypto world so that the blockchain could be used more effectively. And stable coins have, as I've talked about in other ones, have proven to be that middle ground. So this transaction, think of it as a bridge between the fiat currency world and the crypto world, which means the volumes and the ability of getting in and getting out of the cryptocurrency world is going to be much easier. And so just like the ETF made investing easier, this is going to make the payment side easier, and the payment side easier means the wallet side gets easier. And once the wallet side gets easier, you're just going to have more and more money that end up in this world that is parallel to the fiat world. So that's why this is an important macro story and at least something to understand. For people who have never spent time on stablecoins, very simply, as it is, think of it as a pegged currency in terms of the way you think about macro. So when other countries have pegged their currency to the dollar, a stable coin is pegged, and in the case of the way we're going to go through the stable coins here for payments, to a currency. But as we get through this will fit into a bigger story of tokenization, which is another word you may have heard about but didn't fully understand. Bernstein put out a report. Bernstein does a lot of good research on crypto for those who have not spent time. Most of the things you're going to see, you'll notice that this is this week. Most of the articles and the things that I'll show have happened in the last month. So they're basically coming out in their report and saying it validates it, which again to me is one of the more important stories of this. Make sure you can see this. Yeah, validates use of stablecoins on the public blockchains. You can go through and read the different ways, but effectively, Bridge, the company Bridge, plays an important role by building API software for businesses. So They're trying to make this much easier for businesses to transact in a faster way, uh, basically instantaneously. And as I go through this, you've all dealt with things like wires, and how long it takes, even if it's in the US. The main point of what's going on with stablecoins, and particularly Bridge, is to make this almost instantaneous in terms of being able to have payments to where if you get in an Uber and you pay the Uber driver, then it goes to Uber, the company. Uber has to eventually get the money. They have to take the money out of your bank account. Eventually, it has to go back to the driver. And that process from beginning to end could take days. This is all meant to happen immediately. And that's why there's been so much focus on trying to get this accomplished in terms of fintech. So just to give you an idea of what Simon Taylor does, does a lot of fintech writing. This will go down as an Instagram-like all-time great acquisition, the largest acquisition in crypto history. And again, it gets into the speed. Stablecoins are 24/7. So again, you can have payment exchange 24/7. It's global and it's instant. Stripe is a real company. This just shows if you haven't heard of them. Again, I told you they're a very large private company, but their volumes topped over 1 trillion. To put them in perspective, they're only behind on the latest unicorn list, behind OpenAI and SpaceX. So everyone's heard of those two at this point. So valued at 65 billion. I think the most recent one I saw was actually higher than that, more towards the 75 to 85 side. In April of this year, John Collison, one of the founders of Stripe, or one of the people leading the business, announced that they were getting back into the use of stablecoins. That was a big announcement for them. To get back into it and to make this a place where they could really take advantage of the flow or the growth that's happening. This is Bridge. So Bridge is only a 2.5-year company. I think their revenues were only $15 million. So if you're buying something for 1.1 billion with 15 million in revenues, you're obviously buying it for the infrastructure that they've built, and you're buying it for the people that are running the business. So Sequoia was involved with them. You can see how much work they've accomplished in a short amount of time. Again, I won't go through the technology behind it, but I just want you to see that this is really focused, and you're going to notice a lot: Africa, LATAM, Brazil. They've been building things to allow countries that maybe want to be pegged to the dollar the ability of doing payments instantaneously. It's a big deal when, again, as Michael Saylor says, in countries where you don't trust your government, your banks, or your foreign exchange. Patrick Collison, I believe John's brother, basically put this out in terms of the importance of stablecoins. And this is where they've gotten to. Stablecoins were not viewed this way 2 years ago. There was a lot of negative press on stablecoins back in 2022. But calling them room temperature superconductors for financial services, it's the speed, it's the cost improvements. Businesses will be built on this once the infrastructure is completely done. And so this is just going to accelerate the pace and probably set off an arms race with inside here. There already has been one going on in terms of getting used. I'll show you some more in terms of the other businesses that have been out there. But this is what they're interested in, and you can go through and see. This is one place, and again, the most important M&A transaction to date for our industry. The broadened recognition that stablecoin-based payments have compelling benefits and are embraced by non-crypto companies. Again, the bridge to the fiat world, which makes it very important, because all these bridges, whether it's the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, or the payment side, each one that happens ends up being a milestone that increases the amount of dollars in this ecosystem, which eventually will continue to grow Bitcoin, grow Solana, grow Ethereum, because there's more and more money that are going to be just in this area. Just some more tweets that came out, again, highlighting, but again, I just want to bring up stablecoins are critical for cross-border payments in emerging markets. Having lived in Brazil, which I've talked about here, when I was there, it was basically during the EM crisis, I sent someone down into the black market to get a real currency rate every day because Brazil had a peg currency during the time that I was there until the devaluation, which occurred in January of '99. So I saw a lot about what happened. Brazil had just come out of hyperinflation. Their settlement, believe it, for their checks happened within a day, as opposed to what was happening in the US, where settlements would take days. So it was always curious to me that in a country that had hyperinflation, every day of money mattered. And right now we're getting to a point where these countries are going to benefit a lot from what's going on with this change in stable coins and the growth in it. So McKinsey, highly recommend for those who want to go through this and kind of go through the payments here. McKinsey's done a lot on digital payments. They've done a lot on just the next payments area in terms of what people should expect. Stablecoin growth, these are just some stories which are showing how all of these are within the last, I would say, 6 weeks. Just more and more news stories that are happening. Again, the bridge between cryptocurrencies and traditional money. Harvard Business Review put on a race to dominate stablecoins. So you've got not only countries involved, you've got companies involved. Everyone's trying to make sure that they have their hand involved in it. They also promise to change the power in these industries as related to stablecoins again. The companies that control the stablecoin market will wield substantial influence over the future of money. Just think about how difficult it is when you travel somewhere and you've got to exchange your currency. A stablecoin, which is pegged to another one, which you can just exchange all over. Everyone would take a dollar pegged currency inside the crypto world, so on the blockchain, and you can do it instantaneously. It also opens up people working for you. So this is a big deal in terms of just be able to exchange money around the globe. This week, Visa and PayPal were at a DC FinTech conference speaking about stablecoins this week. This was on CNBC. You can go watch it. PayPal set up its own stablecoin, and it has already gone from $0 to $1 billion. So you've already seen them involved. Believe it or not, Swift is also involved, and they tweet out, and they've gone through and basically have talked about everything in there. But again, going through with their side in terms of focused on the digital asset side, you've got everyone who's beginning or has given up, I think, on the fight on this. There's been, Maxine Waters had a statement out on this, that it was inevitable. This was in the last 2 weeks of the rise of cryptocurrency and the rise specifically of stablecoins. This is just goes through the transaction volume. So just to show how quickly it's gone up, this is the adjusted stablecoin volume. This is the one to pay attention to rather than this one, because it strips out other payments that go through. But the growth rate is enormous. But we're already in the trillions of dollars in terms of transactions, and that's before we've actually been able to get the infrastructure in there. I've shown this before. This is an important story for people that are trying to figure out what this means for the fiat world. So stablecoins now are just behind Mexico as the largest owners of treasuries. So we've seen Japan and China, their treasury holdings, and most countries have actually been declining. We've seen a rise in the movement to gold for central bank reserves. Stablecoins, as they grow, will continue to grow. And I would expect that at some point over the course of the next 5 years that you will see them possibly as the largest, as more and more emerging markets move more and more money and there's more transactions into this. I think you are going to have more and more treasury holders that are related to it. In terms of which currency is dominating, this is why I think in the US the government is starting to get more supportive. So again, as I showed, a stablecoin is just pegged to another currency. Well, of the stablecoin supply out there, the demand is for the dollar. So anyone calling for the dollar's demise, one of the reasons that I think this whole transaction situation with the dollar, retail individuals, instead of holding money in their bank accounts in, say, Argentina, would rather hold it in US dollars and stable coins. and that's what you're starting to see. Is this the dollar is number one, euro is not even number two, gold backed is number two, and there's really nothing else at this point. So of the hundred and I think it's $70 trillion now is the market cap approximately uh, of stablecoins. The dollar is 99% of it. Something very important, which came out on August 30th, Apple opened up their NFC, which, as people are talking, you're going to probably soon be able to pay using tap to pay with crypto. Again, this is eventually where this is going to go, where your iPhone, or at this point, since it's iPhone's technology, is your wallet. You're seeing that more and more. So if you just think, and if you haven't used your phone yet to pay, I don't carry credit cards around with me when I'm just moving around Brooklyn and New York City, unless I'm going somewhere that I think they might need the credit card. I forget it a lot. I just use my phone at this point. This is becoming more and more. So you want to pay attention what's happening with Apple in terms of being the wallet. The Fed has now come out. Waller came out. This week, supportive of tokenizations and stablecoins. So you've got the government out there, and you've got the Fed saying don't fight it. Visa has a tokenized asset platform. Again, Visa's heavily involved in this and moving towards it. This is a McKinsey report on tokenizing assets. I highly recommend people read this. The reason I say you recommend it, there's money to be made in terms of being in front of this, but for people that haven't invested in Bitcoin yet, Bitcoin for me is the S&P 500 or the stable value of that area. If you want to take risks with inside the crypto world, Bitcoin is the place to go. You've got other things like Ethereum and Solana, but I've always been a believer that Bitcoin will be the not just digital gold, but is really representative of the S&P 500 or the growth of the ecosystem there. That's the way I think of the S&P 500. It's the growth of technology. It's amorphous. It changes names. Bitcoin to me is just like that. That's the way I think about it. Larry Fink says tokens are the next generation for markets. So tokenization is really critical, and I think it's something that people have to focus on, because it won't just be currencies. It'll be tokenization of everything. So think of it as, NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So those are unique things that are tokenized, or unique items that you want to make sure have scarcity. That's the whole thing. Is in the digital world, there's a abundance of copies, so you can copy anything. I mean, all the things that I have here are just showing you what's on the internet. It's a copy. I just went through it and I'm showing it to you. You can go see it the same way. If this was tokenized by Goldman Sachs, then it would show that the original was from Goldman Sachs. So that's what we're entering into, is to be able to have true uniqueness, true scarcity. Everything's going to be tokenized, and you're going to see this grow, as Larry Fink said. Now, the creator economy, Goldman did a report on the creator economy. Again, what I'm doing, my Substack, all of that stuff is part of the creator economy. Think of Etsy as the creator economy. What this does, and this is a global situation, it opens up the world. So if someone makes something in Brazil, if you wanted to buy it, the ability to pay for it was a very confusing process. The creator economy will be opened up and helped by stablecoins dramatically, meaning the people that are getting the money, the people that are spending the money, that process will be instantaneous and much easier. So specifically, can stablecoins ease the pains of paying creators in emerging markets? Again, emerging markets, think about how much cheaper things are there, how much the labor price. This will arbitrage a lot of labor for things specifically within inside the creator economy, but think about any other place where you want to pay people globally. Stablecoins and the ability of doing this more seamlessly will open that up. So it does open up the world in a lot of different ways, and that's why it's an important theme, because this week, with the Stripe purchase of Bridge, you want to spend time on what the world's going to look like 2-3 years from now, because this is moving fast. So just very quickly for emerging markets, anyone who hasn't invested in emerging markets or isn't focused on it, this is the story for emerging markets, is how stablecoins are going to bring stability in a world that has not had stability. So I would go spend time just kind of looking at this. This is Just highlighting again how big emerging markets are. They dominate the world, especially if you include China and India in emerging markets in terms of the middle class, the growing middle class. They deal with 80+% of the global population. So it's been a Western world. So stablecoins is going to open up the entire world that has not been a part of a lot of the world from a spending basis. So stablecoins is a huge part there. Latin America, where I lived for 2.5 years, I obviously spent a lot of time there, but they're one of the ones that end up being the focal points on it. And you can see they're adapting very quickly. You have Africa as number one. This is year over year growth rate. And it's throughout Latin America. You can see crypto markets in Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil. In terms of Brazil, their exchanges, stable coins are dominating more than Bitcoin, ETH, and the altcoins. So you had a very sharp rise there. In terms of Argentina, you can see what's happened, especially as Malay took over. I mentioned this in my presentation. If you just every week go read an article or listen to a podcast on what's happening in Argentina around stablecoins, as of now, not everyone knows about it, but this is growing every single day, and that's why you're seeing these volumes for sure that are picking up. And I think they're going to stay there. The share of LATAM retail side transaction volume by asset type, and again, this is all focused on whether it's Bitcoin, ETH, altcoin. You see stable coins are now dominating across there, but much higher than the global numbers. So they're migrating to there for the reasons that I mentioned. Now, just to finish up here, one other place that this is going on, and again, I am constantly learning on cryptocurrencies. I do have a nice position in Bitcoin. I do believe in Bitcoin. I do believe that people should have a certain percentage of their net worth there. But Solana keeps showing up with inside this. So I believe if you believe in the growth of stablecoins, which I do, and I think this is now going to be accelerated with Stripe purchasing Bridge, Solana seems to benefit more than Ethereum at this point. So you've seen some outperformance by Solana. So I'm looking for Solana and Bitcoin for when they break out post the election, whenever that does happen, whether it's right after or whether they consolidate for longer periods of time. I do think that Solana is the place to look at. And just to show how it's starting to happen in terms of stablecoin volumes, you can see the red here beginning about the same time that we saw in Argentina, that all of a sudden you're starting to see Solana right in here go through. So I think Solana is the place for this to focus on. So a special one today, really just, again, to keep people learning more and more about what's happening in crypto. Please don't hesitate. You guys have been good reaching out. If you have anything that is of interest to you and it fits in with what's going on, I'll either answer it directly or I'm happy to do a video if it's something that I don't know about yet or it's not something I've learned enough about yet. So I'll see you guys again soon with market recap for the week.